February 2026, and Microsoft is dealing with a privacy catastrophe that makes recall look like child's play. Windows 11's Suggested Actions feature, the thing that's supposed to help you by recognizing phone numbers and addresses in your clipboard, has been caught reading everything you copy, every password, every private message, every confidential document. Every single thing that touches your clipboard gets scanned, analyzed, and sent to Microsoft servers. And when security researchers discovered exactly how deep this goes, Microsoft went into full panic mode. If you care about your privacy at all, hit subscribe right now, because what I'm about to show you will change how you use Windows forever. The feature seemed innocent enough. Microsoft introduced Suggested Actions in Windows 11 as a convenience tool. You copy a phone number, Windows detects it and offers to call it through Teams. You copy an address, Windows suggests opening it in Maps. You copy a date, Windows offers to create a calendar event. Sounds helpful, right? Except here's what Microsoft didn't tell you. To offer those suggestions, Windows has to read your clipboard constantly. Every single time you press Ctrl+C, before you even paste it anywhere, Windows is analyzing that data. Not just checking if it's a phone number or address, reading everything. And it gets so much worse. Security researcher Amanda Chen was the first to expose this in January 2025. She's a cybersecurity analyst at a firm in Singapore, and she was running network monitoring tools on her Windows 11 machine for an unrelated project. She copied a confidential client email to paste it into a secure document. Her network monitor lit up. Data transmission to a Microsoft server. She wasn't uploading anything. She wasn't syncing anything. She just copied text. So she tested it systematically. She copied random text. Her network monitor showed transmission. She copied a password, transmission to Microsoft. She copied a private message, transmission. Every single clipboard operation was sending data to Microsoft servers. She published her findings on February 3rd, 2025. The technical breakdown showed that Suggested Actions doesn't just scan your clipboard locally. It sends the clipboard contents to Microsoft's cloud servers for analysis. The stated reason is AI processing. The phone number recognition, the address detection, the date parsing, all of that happens server-side using Microsoft's AI models, which means every time you copy anything, that data leaves your computer and goes to Microsoft before you even know what's happening. The response was immediate and explosive. Privacy advocates called it the most egregious violation of user trust in Windows history. Tech forums erupted with thousands of users demanding answers. The hashtag ClipboardGate started trending. Security experts analyzed the network traffic and confirmed Amanda's findings. Windows 11 with Suggested Actions enabled was transmitting clipboard data constantly. Not just the content, but metadata too. Timestamps, application source, user account information. Microsoft was building a complete profile of everything users copy and paste. Here's what makes this absolutely insane. Microsoft never disclosed this in clear terms. The Windows 11 privacy policy mentions data collection for AI features. It mentions improving services through usage data. But nowhere does it explicitly say, we will read and transmit everything you copy to our servers. Users agreed to privacy policies they didn't understand, giving Microsoft permission to surveil their clipboard without realizing it. Legal experts immediately questioned whether this consent was valid. The privacy policy language was so vague that users couldn't have reasonably understood what they were agreeing to. Thomas Brennan is a doctor in Melbourne. He uses his Windows 11 laptop for patient notes and medical records. Australian privacy laws are strict about patient data. It has to be encrypted, stored securely, and never transmitted to third parties without explicit consent. He copies patient information all the time, moving data between his medical records software and reports. In January, he attended a cybersecurity seminar where Amanda Chen presented her findings. He realized immediately he'd been violating patient privacy laws for months. Every time he copied a patient's medical history, diagnosis, or treatment plan, Windows sent that to Microsoft servers. He's legally required to report data breaches. He had to report this. His clinic now faces a regulatory investigation. Microsoft's feature turned him into a privacy law violator without his knowledge. He's not alone. Law firms, medical practices, financial institutions, any organization handling confidential information suddenly realized Windows 11 made them complicit in data breaches. Corporate IT departments went into crisis mode. Emergency meetings to assess liability. Rushed deployments of group policies to disable suggested actions. Some companies banned Windows 11 entirely until Microsoft addressed this. The enterprise sector backlash was massive. Microsoft's commercial clients, the ones paying for volume licenses and enterprise support, were furious. But here's what really terrified people. Security researchers dug deeper into the data transmission and found something worse. The Clipboard data sent to Microsoft wasn't being deleted. It was being stored. For how long? Microsoft wouldn't say. For what purpose? Microsoft said improving AI models and providing better suggestions. Translation: they're building a massive database of everything people copy, and they're keeping it indefinitely. Privacy lawyer Michelle Torres analyzed Microsoft's data retention policies and found they claim the right to retain data for as long as necessary to provide services and comply with legal obligations. That's indefinite retention. Everything you've ever copied on Windows 11 with suggested actions enabled could be sitting on Microsoft servers right now. And it's not encrypted in a way that protects you. The data is encrypted in transit, sure, but once it reaches Microsoft servers, they can read it. They have the keys. It's encrypted to protect it from outside hackers, not to protect it from Microsoft, which means Microsoft employees with the right access can see everything. Customer support, engineers, contractors, internal tools allow searching this data. The potential for abuse is staggering. Jessica Palmer worked at Microsoft as a support engineer from 2019 to 2024. She left the company and spoke out in February 2025 after the suggested action scandal broke. She confirmed that internal tools exist to search user data collected from Windows features. She personally used them for troubleshooting customer issues. She had access to OneDrive files, Edge browsing history, and Cortana query logs. She says the access controls are weak. Too many people have access to too much data. She never saw Clipboard data specifically because she left before suggested actions was widely deployed. But the infrastructure to search it exists. If they're collecting it, employees can access it. Microsoft's official response came February 5, 2025, 2 days after Amanda Chen's findings went viral. A blog post from the Windows team. The tone was defensive. They explained that suggested actions uses cloud processing to provide intelligent recommendations. They insisted the data is handled securely and used only for providing the feature. They said users concerned about privacy can disable suggested actions in settings. That was their solution. Don't like us reading everything you copy? Turn off the feature. No apology. No acknowledgement that they should have been transparent about this from the start. Just a half-hearted explanation and a suggestion to disable it. The backlash intensified. Users pointed out that suggested actions is enabled by default. Most people don't even know it exists. They're not making an informed choice to use it. They're being surveilled by default, and they have to actively discover the feature exists and figure out how to disable it to stop the surveillance. That's not consent. That's trickery. Privacy advocates demanded Microsoft make suggested actions opt-in instead of opt-out, require explicit user permission before enabling Clipboard monitoring. Microsoft refused. Their position: it's a helpful feature most users want, so it should be on by default. Users who don't want it can turn it off. But the data proves most users don't want it. When people found out what it does, they disabled it in massive numbers. Within a week of the scandal breaking, analytics showed 61% of Windows 11 users had disabled suggested actions. Microsoft's own telemetry proved users rejected the feature when they understood what it did. Then the lawsuit started. February 12, 2025, a class action lawsuit filed in California. The allegation: Microsoft violated wiretapping laws by intercepting communications without consent. The legal theory is that clipboard data often contains communications, messages people copied from emails or chats, and reading those without explicit permission is wiretapping. The lawsuit seeks damages for every Windows 11 user in California who had suggested actions enabled, potentially millions of people, billions in liability. February 18, 2025, the European Data Protection Board announced an investigation. GDPR requires explicit consent for data processing and clear disclosure of what's being collected. Microsoft's vague privacy policy might not meet that standard. If the EDPB determines Microsoft violated GDPR, the fines could be catastrophic. Up to 4% of global revenue. For Microsoft, that's billions. Microsoft's stock took a hit, not a crash, but a noticeable decline. Investors are worried about legal liability and reputation damage. The company spent years rebuilding trust after Windows 10's forced updates and telemetry controversies. Suggested actions destroyed that trust in days. Enterprise clients are reconsidering renewals. Government agencies are pausing Windows 11 deployments. The financial impact is real and growing. But the human impact is what really matters. Real people are being harmed by this. Rachel Kim is a domestic violence survivor in Seattle. She escaped an abusive relationship in 2023 and rebuilt her life. She uses a Windows 11 laptop. She's in support groups online and copies messages from other survivors to keep for herself, words of encouragement and advice. She didn't know Windows was sending those messages to Microsoft. When she found out, she was devastated. Those were her private thoughts, her trauma, her recovery. Microsoft took that without asking. She's switching to Linux. She can't trust Windows anymore. Stories like Rachel's are everywhere. Abuse survivors, whistleblowers, journalists protecting sources, activists in authoritarian countries. People who need privacy for their safety are being betrayed by their operating system. Microsoft's feature isn't just annoying, it's dangerous. And the technical details make it even worse. Security researchers reverse-engineered the suggested actions data transmission and found it includes device identifiers. Your clipboard data is linked to your specific computer and Microsoft account. Microsoft isn't just collecting what people copy, they're building profiles. User X copies a lot of financial data. User Y copies a lot of medical terms. User Z copies political content. That profiling has value. Advertising value. Microsoft says they don't use clipboard data for ads, but their privacy policy doesn't prohibit it. The data is there. The infrastructure to exploit it exists. Trust that they won't use it after everything? David Rodriguez is a journalist in Mexico City. He investigates cartel corruption. His sources send him information through encrypted channels, and he copies that information to work with it. Suggested actions meant every piece of evidence, every source name, every confidential tip went to Microsoft servers. His sources' lives depend on confidentiality. He just found out he compromised them unknowingly. He's switching to a completely offline workflow. No Windows, no cloud services, air-gapped computers only. Microsoft's privacy violations forced him to adopt extreme operational security just to do his job safely. And it's not just suggested actions. This scandal revealed a larger pattern. Microsoft has been steadily expanding surveillance in Windows under the guise of helpful features. Recall was supposed to screenshot everything. Copilot monitors your activity to provide AI assistance. Suggested actions reads your clipboard. Each feature, taken alone, has a justification. Together, they form a comprehensive surveillance system. Microsoft is watching everything you do on your computer. They're collecting it, storing it, analyzing it. Windows isn't an operating system anymore. It's spyware with word processing. The comparisons to other tech companies are inevitable. Apple got criticized for CSAM scanning in iCloud, and the backlash was so severe they canceled the feature. Google faces constant privacy concerns, but Chrome at least lets you disable telemetry. Microsoft is going further than any of them. Reading your clipboard constantly is more invasive than browser history or photo scanning. The clipboard contains everything: passwords, confidential messages, financial data, health information, everything, and Microsoft claimed the right to all of it. So what can users actually do? First, disable suggested actions immediately. Go to Settings, Privacy, and Security. Suggested actions. Turn it off. That stops the clipboard monitoring, but it doesn't delete data already collected. Microsoft still has everything you copied before disabling it. There's no way to request deletion of that data specifically. You can request deletion of your entire Microsoft account data under GDPR or California privacy law, but that's scorched earth. Second, consider whether you trust Windows at all anymore. If Microsoft did this with suggested actions, what else are they doing that hasn't been discovered yet? Security researchers are now auditing every Windows 11 feature, looking for hidden surveillance. They found telemetry in places Microsoft never disclosed. Background processes sending data constantly, registry keys that control privacy settings but aren't exposed in the settings interface. Windows 11 is a black box, and users are discovering Microsoft's been lying by omission about what it does. Third, evaluate alternatives seriously. Linux has never been more user-friendly. Ubuntu, Linux Mint, Pop! OS, they all work great for everyday tasks. Gaming on Linux is viable now thanks to Proton. Mac OS is an option if you can afford the hardware. Chrome OS works for basic use. The point is, you're not trapped. Windows doesn't have a monopoly anymore. You have choices, and the only way to force Microsoft to respect privacy is to leave. Angela Martinez runs a small graphic design business in Barcelona. 6 employees, all on Windows 11. When the suggested action scandal broke, she called an emergency meeting. They handle client work under NDAs. If Windows is sending clipboard data to Microsoft, they're violating those agreements. Her lawyer confirmed it. She's migrating the entire company to Mac, buying 6 Mac Studios and 6 MacBook Pros. Cost 45,000 euros. She's paying that because staying on Windows is a legal liability she can't accept. Microsoft lost a loyal customer and 45,000 euros in future Windows and Office revenue because they couldn't resist spying on users. This is happening across the business world. Small businesses, enterprises, government agencies, they're all reassessing Windows 11. The feature that was supposed to make Windows more helpful became the reason to leave Windows entirely. Microsoft's obsession with AI and data collection is killing the product. And the internal panic at Microsoft is real. Sources inside the company, speaking anonymously, say executives are furious. The Windows team is being blamed for not disclosing the privacy implications clearly. The legal team is preparing for years of litigation. The PR team is trying to contain the damage, but it's too late. The story is out. Users know what Windows does. Trust is broken. Bill Gates hasn't been involved in Microsoft's daily operations for decades, but even he got asked about this in an interview February 20th, 2025. His response was tone-deaf. He said privacy concerns are overblown and that AI features require data to function. Users should trust that Microsoft handles data responsibly. The interviewer pushed back. What about users who don't want their clipboard read? Gates said they can disable the feature. No acknowledgement that it should have been opt-in from the start. No empathy for people who feel violated. Just dismissiveness. That interview went viral for all the wrong reasons. It became a symbol of how out of touch Microsoft leadership is. They genuinely don't understand why users are angry. They see data collection as necessary for innovation. Users see it as surveillance. That fundamental disconnect is why Microsoft keeps stepping on the same rake over and over. The long-term implications are massive. Windows market share is already declining. This accelerates it. Every privacy scandal pushes more users away. Windows dropped to 68% desktop market share in February 2025, down from 71% 6 months earlier. That's a huge drop in a short time. Linux is at 6.2%, Mac at 18%, Chrome OS at 4.8%. If the trend continues, Windows could drop below 60% by 2027. That's unthinkable, but it's happening. And Microsoft's response to declining market share is to double down on the strategies causing the decline. More AI integration, more cloud services, more data collection. They're trapped in a cycle. They need data to train AI. AI features require surveillance. Surveillance drives users away. Losing users means less data. They need more data per user to compensate, so they surveil more aggressively, which drives more users away. It's a death spiral. The internal turmoil at Microsoft following the suggested actions scandal reached a fever pitch in the spring of 2025. What began as a crisis for the Windows team quickly escalated into an existential debate within the company about the future of Windows and Microsoft's core business model. The Windows engineers, who had simply been following a mandate from leadership to inject AI into every possible user interaction, felt thrown under the bus by the corporate response. They were tasked with delivering intelligent experiences, and the cloud-based clipboard processing was, from an engineering perspective, the most efficient way to achieve the required accuracy and speed for phone number and address detection. Their initial design documents, which clearly outlined the server-side analysis, were allegedly watered down by the legal and privacy teams before public release, creating the fatal transparency gap. This internal conflict spilled over into strategy meetings. One faction, heavily influenced by the Azure and AI divisions, argued that data collection and AI integration were non-negotiable for future competitiveness against Google and Apple. They saw the public backlash as a temporary PR setback, fueled by a vocal minority of privacy extremists. This group pushed for more AI, betting that users would eventually accept the trade-off for superior functionality, the same gamble they took with recall. They argued that softening their stance would be seen as weakness and signal a retreat from their AI-first vision. The other faction, primarily within the commercial and legal teams, saw the suggested actions fallout as a catastrophic breach of trust that jeopardized their multi-billion-dollar enterprise business. They pointed to the wave of corporate clients aggressively disabling Windows 11 features and the regulatory probes in the EU and Australia. For large organizations, Windows is a utility, not a consumer gadget, and any feature that converts a utility into a liability is unacceptable. This group demanded immediate, tangible changes, making suggested actions permanently opt-in, providing an easy-to-use tool for users to request deletion of past clipboard data, and a public, unambiguous apology from the CEO. They argued that preserving the relationship with enterprise customers was more important than winning the AI arms race on the consumer desktop. The lack of a clear, unified response from Satya Nadella's office only amplified the chaos. While Nadella publicly stressed the importance of trust, the actions taken, or rather the actions not taken, showed a fundamental prioritization of AI growth over user autonomy. The refusal to make the feature opt-in was the clearest signal. Microsoft believed the value of the collected data outweighed the cost of the reputational damage. This decision essentially enshrined a surveillance by default philosophy at the heart of Windows 11. The class action lawsuits began to gain momentum, moving past the initial filings to discovery phases where Microsoft would be forced to reveal internal communications about the design and intent of suggested actions. The threat of having engineering and legal emails subpoenaed, potentially revealing a deliberate strategy to obscure the extent of the clipboard reading, terrified leadership. They faced a regulatory environment, especially in Europe, that was rapidly losing patience with big tech's vague privacy promises. The possible GDPR fine wasn't just a number. It represented a forced restructuring of their global data handling practices, which could cripple their ability to launch similar AI features in the future. The suggested actions crisis was not merely a bug or a miscommunication. It was the inevitable collision between Microsoft's AI ambitions and the world's increasing demand for digital sovereignty. The only question is whether Microsoft realizes it in time to change course. Right now, there's no sign they do. The official communications are defensive. The product roadmap shows more AI features coming. Copilot integration is expanding. They're not listening to users, they're listening to investors who want AI growth stories. And that's going to kill Windows. If this opened your eyes to what Microsoft is really doing with Windows 11, share this with everyone you know. People need to understand what's happening on their computers. Microsoft won't tell them. The mainstream tech press barely covers it. It's up to us to spread the truth. Subscribe if you want to keep exposing big tech's privacy violations, because this is just the beginning. Suggested Actions is one feature. Windows 11 has hundreds of features. How many others are spying on you right now without your knowledge? We're going to find out, and when we do, you'll hear about it here first. Microsoft panicked over Suggested Actions, but the real panic hasn't even started yet. Wait until users find out about the other surveillance built into Windows that nobody's talking about yet. That's coming, and it's going to make this look small,